house. You can clearly see the primer in the area, and it looks like it's been cleaned. You can clearly see there's no rust. But then all of a sudden, as soon as I paint this, I can make this fire escape look pristine if I paint it and I do all this bad job. And I paint it, the engineer who was not there watching me. Oh, by the way, do you think I pulled a permit to fix this fire escape?
Most of the time not.
No, you know,
We get the letter from the engineers.
after the fact. So we're not being watched, okay? We're doing whatever we want, and the engineer shows up to get a check that's either $300 to $500. You think he's going to get out of his car and walk the whole thing? Or is he going to give you an opinion letter, because the thing is going to be perfectly painted black. He's going to give you an opinion letter, which is acceptable, that says, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief and opinion, the fire escape looks structurally sound. If anybody gets hurt, you know what my opinion is worth? It's just an opinion. That day. When did it break? Did it break the day that I signed the opinion letter? No, it broke 6 months later. Oh, I didn't check it that day. The letter you have is an opinion that day. You didn't tell me to come back every day and check it for 6 months. So we're going to talk about opinion letters and how they're not really doing their job. What you want is structural oversight. And if you write a violation, you want to have a one-on-one relationship with your engineer. Regardless who the vendor is, you say to the engineer, are you watching this guy? Are you doing 3 to 5 visits with this guy? Because at the end, I want your letter, and I want, as my code says in Massachusetts, I don't want an opinion letter. I want this thing certified. So either load test it or certify it. And certifying it is not going to come from a vendor, because he's going to quickly go in and out and do this kind of work. Certified means you have a letter that states you've gone in and verified that there's no rust in any of these connections, and that the tiebacks into the building are 100%. Then I'll accept your certification letter. Otherwise, these opinion letters that have been used throughout the United States, I'll bet you, if I research this, and this is 75 years worth of rust growing here, I bet you that it's not just being painted in those 25 years. I bet you in the city that this came from, there's a certificate from 5 years ago certifying it the way it is from a structural engineer.
Some of the procedure that we use is when we find some of these, sometimes we get in touch with the fire department.
Yep.
One of the major concerns is when they have emergency fire department going and using the
Yes.
risk of something.
That's when people get hurt. The tenants get hurt. The firemen get hurt. You know who never gets hurt? The landlord. You know who never? You know the second guy that never gets hurt but gets yelled at all the time? The building inspector. Because when something horrific goes wrong, the first guy out there has to be the building commissioner. After the building commissioner, they go, who's in charge of my fire escape systems here? And they're going to go, I think it's Louis. Get Louis over here right away. And then, and he needs somebody to hang. He has to hang somebody because they're trying to hang him. And he needs to basically say, but the main thing that we're going to try to stress to you in this class is have it inspected. Have a report generated that you see, have a one-on-one relationship with an engineer, and you don't allow any work to be done on any other fire escapes in your city that doesn't have a report that you've seen and doesn't have engineer oversight. So you want a permit to be pulled, because this is structural. When you do anything structural in something, you got to pull a permit. Anything structural. Perfect. So you're going to get a permit, and then because it has a permit, do you have time to watch it getting repaired correctly, or do you want an engineer paid by the owner or paid by the vendor to oversee that it's getting done correctly?
Well, most of the time when we do the citation, we go to the owner, and we get in touch with the engineers that we
Right. But that's it. A lot of times the owners get an engineer and they do come in. They do it that day, and then they're never called again. For 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, until the work is done. There's a magic in the middle that nobody knows what happened, not even the engineer. And then all of a sudden, magically, 3 months, 6 months later, the engineer gets a call and said, hey, how much to come back again and look at that very fire escape you did a report on. And he didn't even do a critical report. He did a general, the fire escape looks bad, it has deflection, it has rust. He didn't say, fix this, fix that exactly, and he didn't watch it. So what we're going to teach today is to say, fire escapes, as the code says, must be load tested and or certified through refurbishment to avoid the load test. We're going to talk about these pieces and say to you, you put the burden on the engineer and say, hey, if there's a violation in this structural work, you have to watch this job all the way through. 3 visits or 5 visits. An initial visit to tell the vendor exactly what needs to be done. A mid-visit that says, hey, you're doing exactly what I told you to do, and not welding it like I'm not going to sign off on that. And then a final review that says, this is good, I'm going to put my name and liability on this piece of paper. And now there's a final call. Louis, how are you? We're done. You want to meet the engineer, or do you want to meet the vendor at the site for you, who knows what a good repair job looks like, to sign off on it? So you've got all these eyes now signing off on these fire escapes. And then at the very end we have a tag. I don't know if you saw the yellows and reds and white tags. There's going to be a white tag on this that says this fire escape now doesn't have to be inspected or load tested for another 5 years, and it tells you exactly what date it is. It tells you who the engineer was, and it also says on the tag who repaired it. So even if you missed something, 3 to 5 years later you find a problem with it, and it was an incorrect repair 3 years later and it fails again because of that, you can look on the tag and say, you've got the owner, you say, you've got recourse. This engineer said everything was perfect, and this vendor said and got paid to fix everything 100%. So you're not going to, even though I'm giving you a violation, you're not going to fix any of this. You're not going to pay for this, because I'm going to call this guy, this vendor, and I'm going to call this engineer. You call them back and say, you have them call me. Because if they charge you to get this right, they're never going to work in the city again, because they just violated, what they wrote to me in a document. I got a document here that says 100% of all the connections are free of rust, that the engineer said. And I got another document that's a contract that says the vendor was going to remove 100% of rust, identified or not, on the report, meaning as he was going along, even if it wasn't identified by the engineer, he had to remove it anyway at no additional cost. So there's a double there. The engineer signed off, I came and signed off, and you know what? I didn't even see that. But you know what? I'm not going to...
My only concern I have is the way that the code is written for the inspection of fire escape every 5 years. It should be a short period of time.
We do.
Specifically, even though the code allows the review of the building every other 5 years, it should be...
Right. On the tag I'm giving you, the confidence test, this is the structural confidence test. We're going to give you a sample of it today for you to take. And you can make one out for some of them. And we can make it out for you aside from tag. There's the yearly review. So it does a 5-year structural, but every year they have to walk through and sign this. This is the owner or the management company has to walk through with you during either a fire inspection or during a building inspection. And as they walk through, it's a yearly verification in between the 5 years, and then they both sign here. And you get this as part of your annual on a building.
So, say they have inspection to shape the stairs, and every other year, part of that company have to go and check.
Well, that's on the 5 year, it's a structural guy going in. On the 1 year, it could be the maintenance guy. It could be, but the maintenance guy's walking with you. See, you're walking with the maintenance guy every year, and he has to sign this in front of you because you've walked the building, you've checked all the things in the building, and then all of a sudden, let's go look at the fire escape. He's going to tell you 3 things for the annual. He's going to tell you the bolts and everything looks good. He doesn't see any rust. He's going to say that the paint looks in good condition, and he says all the doors and windows are opening and they work, and the cantilever hits the ground. You go, okay, that's a simple 1 year inspection, just like get on it, guy. And a lot of times on a bigger fire escape, you make the owner get out of the window, climb down the fire escape all the way to down and sign this. You don't say, hey, does it work? No. Go to the top, climb down, and then sign this.
We have that situation where we go through the 5-year inspection, and maybe 1 or 2 years later, you got the snow or other condition, the stairs,
Yeah.
the stability start to...
Well, if it's properly repaired, that'll never happen. I guarantee you. I'll explain to you how things get fixed correctly. If you temporarily repair this, yes, in 1 to 3 years it'll start rocketing and ricketing again. You repair it like that one, guaranteed. And I believe that the guarantee that we ask from all vendors, you must give a 10-year unconditional. 10 years that this fire escape will always pass. As long as you keep it painted, and that's on the owner. As long as you keep it painted, it'll always pass. Now, even if the owner doesn't paint it, rust can't get in there anymore. It's got 50-year silicone. And it's got a brand new bolt. Rust needs air and water to grow. Yeah, this is unchecked. You put your finger in, and the bolt's good. If I twist that enough, I'll pop that bolt out, but it's a false bolt. Same as this false bolt. So, yeah. And when you look at here, I mean, look at this is buried in the ground. Look how much it ate into the ground. And this is all typical repairs that happen. A lot of guys who can't fix it from underneath will weld angles on top. They'll leave the rust. They'll weld the nose.
So inspection is going to be illegal.
It's illegal.
This survey had to be.
And you can't weld because the law says with lead paint, and if you have lead paint, you can't weld on fire escapes anyway. And 90% of all the fire escapes, 98% of all the fire escapes in the United States is bolted connection. You're supposed to be changing the bolts anyway. You're not supposed to be welding. This is how you make money. You cheat by welding. Plug it in. So instead of a $10,000 job for a full refurbishment of a fire escape, it's a $3,000 job from some welding guy, but it'll only last 2-3 years. And then the next time you're going to see this is 5. So you'll either see this when a tenant falls through or a fireman falls through, and guess who they call? They call Louis. Because Louis not doing his job, they say. Oh, you know, and that's the thing you have to. But we're going to cover all that today in the brochures, and we're going to talk about not just here, but all across the country. Good. Thanks for the interview. Thank you.